McLaren sees Max Verstappen as a threat to their lives, but not a threat to their Constructors' Championship hopes. While his dominance in the Drivers' Championship remains undeniable, McLaren's real focus is on fending off a different competitor, Ferrari. Let's hear what Lando Norris and Zak Brown had to say about the Dutchman before this weekend's Las Vegas Grand Prix. Stay tuned. Lando Norris and McLaren might one day look back at the 2024 Formula One drivers' title chase as the ultimate what could have been for a team that hasn't claimed a drivers' championship since Lewis Hamilton's breakout triumph in 2008, or a constructors' crown since Mika Häkkinen's reign a decade earlier. This season has brought them agonisingly close to a full return to glory. While Max Verstappen is all but assured of his fourth consecutive title, McLaren's focus has now shifted to defending their position against a surging Ferrari. The Scuderia has roared back into contention with Charles Leclerc's win in Austin and Carlos Sainz's triumphant farewell in Mexico City. Verstappen, meanwhile, showcased a masterclass in Brazil, clawing his way from power 17 to a jaw-dropping victory in treacherous conditions, cementing his 62-point lead over Norris. Interestingly, it's the same margin Verstappen held when Norris grabbed his long-awaited maiden victory in Miami earlier this season. Max Verstappen needs just one more head-to-head finish ahead of McLaren's Lando Norris to seal his fourth consecutive Drivers' Championship. Meanwhile, the Constructors' battle tells a different story, with McLaren holding a 36-point lead over Ferrari. Ferrari, in turn, sits 13 points ahead of Red Bull, who have leaned heavily on Verstappen to stay in contention. Sergio Perez's struggles have amplified Red Bull's woes, as the Mexican driver has scored only about 30% of Verstappen's tally. In contrast, McLaren's Norris and Oscar Piastri, along with Ferrari's Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, have delivered far more balanced performances, keeping their teams in the hunt. Speaking ahead of the highly anticipated Las Vegas Grand Prix, Norris emphasised that McLaren's real fight is now with Ferrari, not Red Bull, a change he first recognised during Formula One's earlier visit to the US this season. He said, "After Miami, I already said back then our challenge is not with Red Bull, it's with Ferrari. I've said it many times since, and it was very clear for a long time that Ferrari were going to be our biggest contenders over Red Bull. So, no, there's almost no focus on Red Bull. There's focus on executing our own program, executing our own potential. The rest should take care of itself." Lando Norris believes that in Formula One, fixating on rivals is a futile exercise. Instead, he highlights the importance of preparation at each of the 24 race locations. Teams prioritise optimising their cars using historical data and practice sessions to refine their setups, leaving the true rivalries to unfold on the track during qualifying and race day battles. "People get hung up too easily on other teams," he continued. "What can you do? How can focusing on a team change anything? It doesn't. It's just chat that people like to come up with and think about and envision. We knew our biggest competitor was going to be Ferrari for a long time, and it's getting closer and closer to being just them against us." McLaren CEO Zak Brown is in full agreement with his star driver. While acknowledging Max Verstappen and Red Bull as dominant forces, Brown sees Scuderia Ferrari as the more pressing threat to McLaren's championship ambitions this season. "Of course, I want to win at least one of the two titles, but the Constructors' title will also be tough. Ferrari looks very strong. They give me more headaches than Red Bull," Brown admitted. "Nevertheless, you must not write them off. Red Bull is an incredibly strong team." Ferrari's steady performances have turned the Constructors' Championship into a nail-biter, with the Scuderia closing in on McLaren. While McLaren remains focused on securing the team title, Ferrari's momentum threatens to derail their aspirations. Although McLaren holds the upper hand for now, Zak Brown acknowledges the lingering impact of Max Verstappen's blistering start to the season. With 7 wins in the first 10 races, the 3-time world champion built a commanding lead in the Drivers' Championship, one that Lando Norris has found hard to erode. "If we lose it, Drivers' title, then it happened at the beginning and not in Silverstone or Monza," Brown explained. Apart from that, Zak Brown has voiced concerns over Max Verstappen's aggressive driving style, warning that it could result in a serious accident if left unchecked. Reflecting on a controversial incident from 3 years ago, Brown addressed Verstappen's on-track behaviour ahead of the Las Vegas Grand Prix this weekend. The Dutchman has faced widespread criticism for pushing the limits during battles, most recently clashing with Lando Norris at the Mexican Grand Prix. In 2 heated moments, Verstappen ran his McLaren rival off the track while attempting overtakes, reigniting debate about his approach to wheel-to-wheel racing. Max Verstappen's combative driving style has drawn fire from F1 veterans Damon Hill and Johnny Herbert, prompting the Dutchman to dismiss their remarks as British bias and declare he would pay no attention to those individuals. Zak Brown, however, remains firm in his warning. Verstappen's approach could lead to a serious incident if left unchecked. Brown cited the infamous collision with Lewis Hamilton at Silverstone 3 years ago as a cautionary tale, suggesting history might repeat itself unless the reigning champion reins in his aggressive tactics. Max is an incredible racing driver who pushes the rules to the limit, but you have to show him where the limits are, said Brown. If that isn't done, you'll end up with scenes like the one between Lewis and Max in 2021, when Lewis said to himself, "Enough is enough. I don't think we want to go back to that." Zak Brown has praised Lando Norris for his approach to acknowledging mistakes, insisting it's not a weakness but a mark of maturity. Brown emphasised that Norris's honesty doesn't detract from his standout performances on track, showcasing his resilience and skill. However, the American turned his focus to Max Verstappen, urging for stricter boundaries in Formula One's rulebook to address the Dutchman's aggressive driving. Speaking to Auto, Motor and Sport, Brown highlighted the need for clearer regulations to ensure fair and safe racing. The world has changed, it's more transparent. Admitting weaknesses is a strength these days, we all have them. Maybe sometimes Lando is too frank and it's better to keep certain things to himself. But I don't think that's a weakness on the track. Lando drove brilliantly in Austin. The only thing he could have done differently was run into Max. But that's not our style and not Lando's either. Lando drives hard but fair. Max is an incredible driver who pushes the rules to the limit. But you have to show him where the limits are. If that doesn't happen, there will be scenes like the one between Lewis and Max in 2021, when Lewis said to himself, "Enough is enough. I don't think we want to go back to that." The question of whether Max Verstappen will ever adjust his aggressive driving style remains unanswered. F1 legend Mario Andretti, however, believes that Verstappen's intensity and fearlessness are precisely what make him such a dominant force on the track, arguing that his aggression is key to his success. He told Racing News 365, "If you are not aggressive, you are not going to be world champion to begin with, but sometimes you can overdo things. We are all human. He knows that, so it is not like he would continue to do things that maybe he shouldn't, but he is aware of a couple of places, like Austin, where he probably could have been a little bit not as right on, but that is good." To me, that is what racing is all about, and I like to see that type of energy going into it from a driver. If you are aggressive and do really stupid things over and over, that is one thing, but this is not the case at all. He is very calculated, and sometimes if the car is not really doing the things he wanted at the time, you can become frustrated, which is the way it should be, and maybe you overdo things, but it's not enough to fault anyone. I like to see that in a driver. If I own the team and he is driving for me, I would say, "Attaboy." Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri are both gearing up for a potential title challenge next season, setting the stage for what could be an intense intra-team rivalry at McLaren. With both drivers showing impressive form, the possibility of heated battles between the two teammates looms large, a dynamic McLaren will need to carefully manage as they aim for championship glory. I am not worried, but I realise that something like this can happen if you are not careful. There are plenty of examples from the past: Piquet versus Mansell, Hamilton versus Rosberg. A lot depends on the personality of the drivers. We are lucky to have two lions in the cage, but they get along very well. The transparency we cultivate at McLaren creates trust, and when a storm threatens, we try to contain it before it grows in strength. That's why we always involve our drivers together in our marketing activities, play golf together and go out to dinner together in the evening. This helps us cope with difficult situations. Like the team orders in Hungary, I'm pretty sure we can handle this in the future as well. Will Max Verstappen win his 4th consecutive driver's title in Las Vegas, or will we witness a shock comeback from Lando Norris? Share your thoughts in the comments section down below, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Thanks for watching.